What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday morning. We are here live. Logan Manzanares.
Katie Manzanares.
And today we have a really fun little podcast today, the Invest With Us podcast. And today we're going to talk about how to invest with us, but what do we got going on to invest in? And so right now we currently have how much, Katie?
I think you said 1.9.
$1.9 million in real estate under contract, which means what? What stage of the process is under contract mean?
It means we got to figure it out.
Yeah, it means that it ain't a for sure thing yet. It means that there's lots of problems. It means that probably $1 million of that ain't probably gonna go through.
No, more than that, or less than that.
Oh, less than that.
We'll close on more.
Have you ever been under contract and not closed on a property, Katie?
Multiple times.
What? Tell me about your first experience, and was it heartbreaking? Was it sad? Were you a little upset when it happened?
I don't even remember which one was the first one, but yes, every single time I feel like it's been heartbreaking and sad.
What about the one with your brother? That was probably the one that I remember most.
Yeah. We were under contract with my brother, literally days before closing, and fell through. Yeah. And then he got really cold feet and said, "Y'all are crazy. I don't want to do this with you." Yeah. It was a bummer.
Yeah, but it was a great lesson to be learned, right?
It was. We learned a lot.
And so, was he out anything?
No.
Were we out?
Yep.
We had to pay. So here's what happens when you get under contract. Here's some things that you have to pay for that if you don't close on it, you still got to pay for it. One of those things is the inspection, right? So those inspections, those are not forced by any stretch of the means, but you as a buyer, it's generally a good idea to get an inspection so you have a good idea of what you're walking into to the property. Another thing that, depending on how far along you are in the process, is we had an appraisal that got conducted, and guess what? Someone's got to pay for that. It's usually paid for when?
At closing.
But if you don't close, when is it paid for?
When the invoice is sent.
Yeah, which was like 2 months later. I was like, what the hell is this? And so that was a fun experience. So just because you have it on contract, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to go through, right? So there's lots of steps in the whole process, which we'll definitely talk about. Like, what are the steps of the due diligence process when something's under contract? But Katie, outside of that, what you got going on in your life right now? So we were gone last week. We did not do an Invest With Us podcast last week. Why was that?
Because I was in the Caribbean catching fish.
Where's that at? Where's the Caribbean? I still don't know where the Caribbean is.
The Caribbean is below Florida, really close to the equator. I was in St. Lucia. It was the most beautiful place I've ever been, probably.
If you guys don't know what St. Lucia is, you know what the Caribbean is. Have you ever seen those commercials for Sandals resorts where they have like the really fit guy and the really pretty woman on the beach doing one of these?
Yeah.
That was Katie.
She was
the pretty woman on the beach, but the real handsome guy was at home in Montana dealing with a snowstorm.
True story. No, it was amazing. Honestly, I am extraordinarily grateful and privileged to be able to go on a trip like that with a girlfriend. And honestly, it's all because of real estate. I made money while I was gone, which was super cool. And I didn't have a worry in the world outside of my girlfriend getting sick on the boat during deep sea fishing. But other than that, it was pretty stress-free, and it was a goal of mine for a long time. Finally, I put it on my goal board in January of 2022 and told my girlfriend about it, and she booked it, and she said, we're going. We had a butler. He could do anything and everything that we wanted him to. We ate delicious sushi every day.
When you say you had a butler, like, what does that mean? What do you mean you had a butler?
Yeah, he was at, like, literally we had a phone that was given to us at the beginning of the trip, and we carried it with us, and the butler called us and make sure that we were going on the excursions that we booked and we were at our dinner reservations. He would actually come and pick us up and escort us to our dinner reservations. If we ever wanted room service, if we ever wanted dessert, they spoiled us rotten. If we ever wanted a bathtub drawn for us, he drew the bath. It was awesome. Amazing. And
so when you go to this Sandals resort in St. Lucia, is everything included? Is it one of those all-inclusive places?
Yeah.
Like, what are the excursions a part of that, or is that separate?
No, so everything's included as far as food and, any amenities that the resort provides, but the excursions were additional. So we did 3 different excursions. We did kind of like a resort or an island tour. We took a catamaran ride and we went up into a volcano and we took a mud bath and we smelled like sulfur and gross. And then we went and washed off in a waterfall. Got to go to one of the poorer cities in St. Lucia. and got to drive through the poverty. And it was very eye-opening. Got to go snorkeling on that one. Just kind of like a full island tour. We did the deep sea fishing, which honestly, I never thought that I would survive because I'm extremely motion sick, but bless her heart, my girlfriend Googled it the night before and was like, you need to take Dramamine tonight, tomorrow morning, when we get on the boat, and then during the ride. And I was like, done. I will do all of that. And then she was the one that ended up getting sick because she didn't follow her own directions.
Typical coaches.
Yeah.
Say one thing, but don't actually follow through on their own advice.
Bless her heart. That was I would love to do that again. It was really amazing. It was a cool experience.
Did you catch a fish?
I did. I caught a mahi-mahi, and I can post a picture about it. It honestly was like the coolest thing ever. Huge fish. Beautiful. Changes colors. Amazing experience. And then lastly, we took, so that the ride from the airport to our resort is extremely windy, and getting motion sick. It was not the most fun ride from the airport to the resort. But on the way home, we said, let's not go for a car ride for an hour and a half. Let's take a helicopter ride. So we took a helicopter ride for 15 minutes to the airport on the way out. And it was a super cool experience too. Something I'd never done before.
So you took a helicopter from the resort to the airport?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. Not only was it functional,
it was efficient.
But it was an experience.
And it was an experience, yes.
That's awesome.
It was great.
Cool. And so you made it back home, and then now we're here. And what are we doing now?
Now we're talking about everything that you started while I was gone.
Yeah. So one of the things that we, our first conversation when we got home was, hey, so we got this house under contract in Ohio, and yeah, it's going to be an Airbnb.
I said, awesome.
And it was great because what was the conversation that you had with your girlfriend when you were down there when I told you that we're going to buy a house in Ohio? And that was like, honestly, my conversation was like, hey, we're going to buy a house in Ohio.
I was like, awesome. And I was just in the background. I was just talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, yeah, my husband just like is going to buy a house while I'm gone. And she's like, what? He's going to buy a house like without asking you and talking to you about it? Yeah, he is. And I'm totally okay with it. And I support it. And I trust him. And yes.
And I think the reason why we have that level of trust and we can do those type of things is because you and I communicate so often. Yeah. We communicate about everything. We have specific communication cycles that allow us to know exactly where we stand at on certain things. And we've done enough communicating that we know that certain things, like, of course, we're going to talk about it.
Totally.
But it's not whether we're like, hey, like, I need your permission or not. And there is some things that we ask for permission for each other on, but a lot of things we've just done it enough, especially in our businesses, that we definitely don't ask for each other's permission in business.
And it hasn't always been this way. Like we have definitely communicated to this point that has allowed us to be able to do this, because it hasn't always been this way. You know, when we were just together, I would have like, yes, no, no, thank you. Don't do that stuff without my permission. Yeah.
Which actually a great point is understanding seasons. And I love about the idea of seasons, because the season we're in, we've been together for 8 years. And so if I'd had with that same conversation 7 years ago would be much different.
Much different.
And everyone wants to look at someone like us, or you want to look at other people and you want to be where they're at right now, but where were they where you are right now in your relationship, in your business, in your with parenting? Like there's so many things that you have to understand that there's specific seasons that you're in, and be okay with knowing where you're at in that season, right? So anyway, back to, we got a house under contract in Ohio, which we did talk about last week.
No.
So we'll talk about that one next week. So that one, if it's still open, maybe to invest with us, we'll talk about that. But that property. But let's talk about how the hell do you get into $1.9 million in real estate? That all will close by the beginning of June, which is in less than 30 days. How does that happen, Katie?
Logan hustles.
What do you got to do in order to do that?
You got to talk to a lot of people, and you got to get a lot of deals presented to you, and you got to get a lot of numbers crunched and say no, yeah, no, yeah.
I'm actually going to get a little tactical right now. And so I think it's important for everyone to understand that in every single real estate transaction, there's 4 pieces that need to happen. Ready for the first one?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the first one is?
Finding the deal.
You got to find the freaking deal, right? So who is finding the deal? Right now, that is like one of the most important pieces, is you got to find a freaking good deal. Second piece, you You know what the second piece is?
Funding the deal?
Yeah. You got to get the funding to the deal. So who's going to bring the capital? Who's going to bring the money to the table? Okay, does it always have to be your money?
No.
Can it be your money?
Yes.
Can it be somebody else's money?
Yeah.
Cool. Third piece. What is the third piece?
Managing the deal?
Managing the deal, right? So depending on what the type of deal is, you got to have someone who's going to manage the deal. So if it's a fix and flip, does somebody have to manage contractors? They have to manage real estate agents. They have to manage subcontractors.
Yes.
Right? If it's a buy and hold, does someone have to find tenants?
Mm-hmm.
Does someone have to screen tenants?
Mm-hmm.
Does someone have to manage the tenants?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. If it's an Airbnb, does someone have to find
Furniture?
Cleaners? What else do you need?
Handymans?
Handymen, right? And so every single transaction that you buy, it needs some sort of management to go with it. Okay, so those are three things. A fourth thing, which I'm not going to ask you because it sometimes falls within the same funding thing, it's actually lending, right? So generally speaking, when you buy a property, like Katie, how many properties have you bought where you bought it cash and you have no loan on it?
One.
But eventually we put a loan on it.
That's
right?
why I was hesitant to say one, because
One.
there is a loan on it now.
Yeah. So most times, like when we buy properties, we're always looking to eventually put a note on a property. Even if we even start with buying with cash, we eventually want to put a note on it. So that means that we have a partner, always a partner in the deal, and that's called a lender. Right. And so securing lending, especially right now in these times, is really, really important. Okay, is it really hard to get lending or is it really easy to get lending?
It's definitely hard.
you got to meet the bank's box, right? Or your lender's box. And it's an important piece. So fundamentally, there's four pieces to every single deal. And so my job right now is what, Katie?
All of them except for management.
Yeah. So I'm basically in charge of putting all those pieces together, right? I find the deals. I'm in charge of getting the lending on the deals. I'm in charge of finding the money for the deals. And when it comes to management, I still will find someone to manage that deal, whether it's us locally or whether it's somebody else to manage that deal. But at this point, I'm actually not in any of those things. Like I'm not finding deals. I'm not, I guess I'm still getting the lending on that side of it. As far as funding the deals, like we're not using our own money. And as far as the management of it, I'm not the one who's managing the properties. Right. And so my job is just to connect all those things. And so I'm sitting on calls all day talking with amazing people, just seeing like what value they can provide and see if they can fit into one of those categories. And so we can do deals together. Right. What are you doing on a daily basis, Kitty?
Putting out fires.
Putting out fires. Right. And so I think it's just important to understand like that's how we're able to do it, is that we're not capital constrained. We're not even deal, like I would say right now our biggest constraint is deals, but we're not management constraint, we're not lending constraint, we're not capital constraint. So our biggest constraint is deals. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for deals all day long and looking for opportunities for us to put our investors' capital that we're working with, the people who are investing with us, to put it into deals that make sense and that, number one, return their capital, right? We want to protect the monies, protect the goose egg, and then how much can we make on that original goose egg, right? So that's how we do it. That's how we're able to get $1.9 million in real estate under contract at the moment. So we talked about we have one in Ohio. Where else do we have properties under contract at?
Arizona.
Ooh, Arizona.
And Montana is
and
the only
Montana.
one that I think I'm aware of.
And Texas.
Oh, and Texas.
And
Oh, yeah.
Texas.
Texarkana. Where is that?
It's on the border of Texas and Arkansas.
Yes, I forgot about our Texarkana.
And so, but the only way we're able to do that is because we're finding people in those areas who are finding us deals and also being able to manage the deals. And we're out there talking with the people who want to invest, who have money sitting around, $50,000, $100,000 that they're like, hey, I went into a deal. I want to make double-digit returns on my money. And we're basically matching up these people and using our judgment experience because we have a track record. We have seen what it takes to make a deal, again, secure the capital and then make money on that capital, right? And so that's our job, is to just put all those pieces together and ensure it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah, we've done a lot on our own, and it's not nearly as fun or nearly as fulfilling as having other people involved.
And I think it's a big piece too. Is as I start to chat with lots of people who want to get into investing in real estate, they've heard about this amazing this thing that they call OPM. You know what OPM is?
Other people's money.
OPM is like, yeah, I'm just going to get into real estate. I'm going to use other people's money to get into real estate. Great, that's awesome. You should, but should you do it as your first deal?
If you can, but
I'm going to argue and say
I'm probably not going to give you money if you
yeah.
don't know what you're going to do with
Katie,
it.
I got $100,000 and you are asking me for $100,000 and your track record is zero. You have zero experience and you say, Logan, please give me $100,000.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
Too risky.
Right? And so I believe that you need to gain experience. You need to have a track record. It doesn't necessarily have to be utilizing your own money per se, but you need to be able to have a track record that you come in and be able to manage people's money. So maybe you're a manager, like you manage people, like you manage it, but you partner up with somebody else who does have experience, and you're able to leverage that as a way for you to start to feel more comfortable asking people for money, right?
Yeah.
So bring in other partners, someone who has experience in managing properties, and if you are the one who has access to the capital, like someone's like, hey, like I want to invest with you, Katie, right? You have no track record, Katie. If you were a great steward of money, you would go and say, hey, I'm going to go partner with someone like Logan or somebody else who has a track record, who has, a multi-million-dollar portfolio, who has shown time and time again that they are able to not only secure money, but they're also able to make money with that money, right? So that's one of the things that I've chatted with a lot of people about, that everyone wants to use OPM, but a lot of people, like, you're not responsible enough. You don't have the experience, you don't have the track record to use OPM.
Well, if you're not responsible enough to use your own money,
yeah,
why are you going to be responsible enough to use somebody else's?
There you go. Case in hand, right? That's good. I like that. So anyway, that's what we have going on. We have lots of deals under contract, and that's what I do every single day. Is I chat with people, like chat with another guy this morning, and maybe we're going to do a deal in a different state. Which leads me to my next question, Katie. And this was an idea I had when you were gone. I had this amazing idea of, like, what if we bought 50 properties in 50 states? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, immediately I was like, we have to put a timeline on it, because 50 states and 50 properties in 50 states in 50 years, months, weeks, days. Like, how fast is this going to be? Maybe we can pin that on the backside once it's done.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the second thing that came to mind is, like, so I put out fires all day long. That's just like my extinguisher's constantly on. So I'm like, well, there's multiple states that I would not want to be a landlord in.
Fair question. Right. And ironically, I made this little post as part of this too. And people were like, well, you don't want to invest in Maryland. You don't want to invest in Oregon. You don't want to invest in California. You don't want to invest in New York. Is that right?
No.
It depends. What are they, when they're saying you shouldn't invest in those states, what are they referencing, Katie?
Residential.
Yeah. And why? Like, why those states?
Because they're not landlord friendly.
Yeah. And so landlord friendly, again, like, let's just keeping the descriptions going here. What does landlord friendly mean?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to.
So landlord friendly is when you have an issue with a tenant and they're not following your lease. In a landlord friendly state, like Montana, for example, there's a very clear eviction process that you can take to remove that tenant from your property and replace them with somebody who is more friendly to your property, right? But what happens in this eviction process when they're not paying rent? Do you still have to pay your mortgage?
Mm-hmm.
You still have to pay your taxes?
Mm-hmm.
You still got to pay your insurance?
Mm-hmm.
Do you might have to actually pay their utility bills as well?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so the longer that process goes out,
the more it costs.
And all of a sudden your investment that you thought you were cash flowing $500 a month, but your mortgage is $1,000 and they're paying $1,500. So that's where your $500 comes from. If they quit paying rent for 2 months, how much are you out?
I didn't follow your numbers. I'm sorry. Can't math.
So if their rent was supposed to be $1,500, your mortgage is $1,000, your PITI. So now your spread is supposed to be $500 a month, right? But they quit paying rent. How much are you losing every single month?
$2,000. Well, $1,000 a month, I guess.
$1,000 a month.
$2,000 right? For 2 months.
And so if that happens for 2 or 3 months, how much money have you lost?
$2,000 or $3,000.
Right.
Plus utilities and taxes, and if those are all included.
And so if you were expecting to make $500 a month, and over 6 months you're supposed to make $3,000, you just lost 6 months of income right there, right? So this is where you got to be really diligent on who you bring into your properties. Okay. So back to the process where someone's like, you don't want to do, you don't want to buy property in my state because of those laws, right? Because the longer, the more tenant friendly they are, the longer that process can be. And you can actually have people who can squat in your properties for a really long period of time, which is really not financially advantageous to a landlord, right? Totally fair, by the way. And so my first response was, we just don't do residential. Like, and that's so those laws are only specific to people who are in 12-month long-term leases. Do those same rules apply to people doing Airbnb?
Do they?
They don't. They absolutely do not. So you're not protected as a tenant if anything under 30 days, right? Or anything that like outside of a lease, you're not protected. So going back to that same situation, even if someone's on a month to month, once they are out of a lease contract, they have no longer have access to that property. You actually can like have a sheriff go and remove them from the property if they don't have a lease, right?
Okay.
If they have a lease, you cannot do that, right? So, and again, in those rules actually are very different among different rules. So even in a tenant friendly, so those states we talked about, you might not be able to even do that. In Montana, I know you can, but in some of those other states, you definitely can't do that, right? So still, a long-term tenant, even on month to month, is still a pain in the butt, right? They have rules.
Yes.
That they have, if they had a lease before that, right? If they had a lease before that. So short-term rentals, for example, they don't have leases. They don't have tenant rights. And so you're able to skirt past that by them not having tenant rights to the property, right? And so you can do Airbnbs, you can do executive stays. Those are generally people who are there temporarily anyway. And so the likelihood of you dealing with somebody who wants to stick, who's a traveling nurse and stay in your property is slim to none, right? Also, another strategy outside of even residential, what else? Like, so if we want to buy 50 properties in 50 states, does that mean we need to buy 50 single family homes?
No.
Is there any other properties we could potentially buy?
Commercial.
We buy commercial properties, right? So we could buy a building and we could have a business go into that building. Now, do business tenants have the same strict laws as residential tenants do in those same tenant friendly states?
I don't know.
Great question. A great answer, I should say. They don't, right? They don't. So the nice part about dealing with businesses is that in every state, even the Republic of California, your tenant laws from a business standpoint are not even close to being the same as they are to being a as a business tenant. You do not have the same strict laws as you do as or the same like safety as a residential tenant, right? And so I can definitely kick your ass out as a business owner who's not paying your rent. So in those states, when let's start to look at those states that are not landlord friendly, we will just buy properties that fit within those boxes.
Genius.
Cool. So one of the biggest question people have when I first said that is like, you don't want to buy in these properties or you don't want to buy in these states. So now we have that problem solved. What other problems are we going to have when we try to buy 50 properties in 50 states?
Yeah, management. That's a lot of different boots on the ground. A lot of connections.
So how do you manage 50 properties in 50 states? Do you manage it, Katie?
No.
Absolutely not. And so one of the things that I have found to be super valuable is when I buy a property in a different state is this. When I buy a property, I want somebody to be boots on the ground to manage that property. Okay. And so we're very fortunate to be part of the Sub2 community. And so the Sub2 community, there's amazing human beings in there. And so I will not buy a deal where we can't actually have boots on the ground in that area. So that takes care of the management is that I want someone who's on the ground, who's someone who has experience, someone who we can trust, and someone who has some equity in the game, who's like willing to get out of bed and go over there and talk to a tenant. And I want them to go talk to a handyman and someone to be able to help manage the tenants and also maintain the property.
Sweet.
Cool.
So that's problem solved.
Okay. So First problem we talked about is landlord friendly states. The second thing is how you're going to manage these 50 properties. Any other questions that
How are you going to find the deals?
How are you going to find the deals? That is what we talked about a little bit earlier, is back to the sub-2 community, the most amazing real estate community on the freaking planet. Is there's 50, there's at least 50 people that are inside each of these states throughout the sub-2 community, and it's my job to continue to network with these people, have them bring us the deals, and give them some equity to be boots on the ground in these deals. And so who's the first person that they want to sell a deal to? Do they want to sell to somebody who they're going to get a wholesale fee and then be done? Or do they want to sell to somebody who they'll get a wholesale fee and they'll get equity in the deal?
Tough decision. Definitely equity.
Right. And so that is my job, is to tell everybody inside this group that, hey, I'm a buyer. I'm looking for these type of properties. And if you bring me the deal, not only will you get your wholesale fee, also, I want you to be boots on the ground. I want you to have equity in this deal. And I'm going to get the best deals. Hopefully, anyway. I'm trying to give the best offer. And with the best offer, I'm trying to get the best deals.
Sweet.
Right. Okay. So we have landlord friendly states. We have managed the properties. And now we have how we find the deals. What else is left?
Funding.
How do we get the funding?
Lending and funding, I guess.
Lending and funding, right? And so as far as lending goes, we're very fortunate that we've developed some really great relationships with lenders that are able to, basically, as long as we have a deal that actually cash flows and actually makes sense, we can get unlimited funding, right? And so many investors, they ran across this problem of they can only get 10 loans in their name, right? When you're going through the traditional banking route. Well, we found a lender who says you can have as many freaking loans as you want to, as long as the deal, every single deal makes sense. It cash flows. They have certain parameters that they're looking for. They want a certain level of liquidity. Outside of that, they're like, bro, like, you have shown us that you can actually manage deals and that you can
track record. You
have a track record. And so we're willing to give you lending on as many properties as the deal itself makes sense. How cool is that? Right. That wasn't a resource that we had access to until recently. And that's been one of the biggest catapults to our successes, that we can get lending on deals all over the country. It's really helpful. And then what was the last thing?
Funding.
And so one of the things we talked about in the beginning is being capital constrained. And so now with all these deals, we're not using any of our own capital into these deals. We're bringing on partners to bring them into the deals. And so so every deal that we do, we have a partner on, and they're investing into these deals, whether they're equity or whether they're doing simple interest, and they're getting like a guaranteed specific return. Like, we're bringing on partners into all these deals, and that's how we're able to continue to find deals and fund deals, is that we're not limited to our own capital. Because if we were limited to our own capital,
we'd be done.
Right? But finito. We couldn't go buy more deals. We couldn't go network with more people. And that's actually one of the values of us not using our own money, is that now we can buy as many deals as we can possibly find that makes sense, that actually fit the buy box, and that, number one, secure people's money, and the secondly, make money on that money.
Yeah.
Right. So, Katie, we talked about landlord friendly states. We have talked about now management of the deal. We have now talked about
finding the deals.
Now we've talked about how we're going to take down the deals, all the resources needed. What else is needed for us to buy 50 properties in 50 states?
Time.
Wow. So you're saying this is actually, we could actually do this?
Yes.
Should we make this commitment to actually do this?
Why not?
So after this point, Katie, have we actually invested in any of the 50 states?
No. One. Sorry.
One.
Outside of Montana, no. Everything has been in Montana.
So as of right now, we've only actually closed on properties in Montana. Cool.
True story.
So it's cool, though, because we have a couple properties under contract in other areas. But let's just declare this right now.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to buy 50 properties in 50 states.
We are going to buy 50 properties in 50 states.
Oh my gosh. It is real. We just said it.
Makes my tummy turn. It's awesome. I love this feeling.
All right. Starts today. So anything up to this point doesn't matter. So we got to still buy another deal in Montana.
Perfect.
Do we have any other deals in Montana in contract?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And so with that being said, if you're out there listening and you're like, hey, I want to invest with you guys, I want to be part of this journey to buy 50 properties in 50 states. We're literally starting at zero. So again, all the properties we have in Montana, they don't count up to this point. Although we just closed on a property yesterday, we're not going to count that one. We're going to start with 0, and we're going to track 50 properties in 50 states. I'll probably you think I should create like a website, and we should have someone to track this. So we have a good idea. So that way you guys can look at like, hey, like maybe you guys are in Oregon, maybe you're in Idaho, maybe you're in Wyoming, maybe you're in all these places, and like say, hey, I have a deal in that place, and you guys want to. And here's the cool part, like, you guys ready for something even cooler? So not only do we want to buy 50 properties in 50 states, do we want to have partners on these deals?
Yeah.
We want to have 50 partners in 50 properties in 50 states.
No, that's got to be part of the website. Is like it has to be drawn out as to how the partnership is broken down and see their potential, so people want in.
That's awesome, right? So you can actually get into this as well. So it's not just us doing 50 properties in the states. You can be part of this journey. And so if you're in Wyoming, or you're in Colorado, or you're in Massachusetts, or you're in New York,
or you're wherever you want to be, and you have a pocket full of cash, you can still get in.
Exactly. You can be anywhere you want to be, right? And it's like, I want to be part of this journey. We're going to make this happen, and we're going to buy 50 properties in 50 states. We want you guys to be part of this. The only way we're actually going to be able to make this happen. Like, we actually can't do it ourselves, whether that's you finding a deal, whether that's you coming in as a partner on the deal, as a lender, whether it's you managing the deal. Like, we need you in order to make this happen.
I can't sit still. I'm like, let's go.
I just got Katie really excited about this right now. So we're going to be talking about that. We're breaking down deals in each of these states, and we want you guys to be part of this journey and be part of something really cool. I've never heard of anybody doing 50 properties in 50 states. And so that'll be something that we're maybe doing. We're trailblazing. Is it going to be easy?
No.
There's going to be lots of hurdles along the way. But it's going to be fun, and it's going to be worth it. And really, it's going to show that anybody can do this, right? And anyone can partner with people to make this thing happen. And man, this is actually really fun.
It is.
It's really, really fun. So anyway, guys, anything else you want to add to that, Katie?
No. But that feeling that you get when you like about to do something you've never done before and it's really scary, lean into that. Don't run away. Lean in.
Yeah. So we might look confident out here, but we have no idea what the hell we're doing. So we're excited for the journey, excited to
come
bring
along
you guys
with us.
Yeah. The one way this is going to happen is if you guys come with us. So again, if you guys have deals, you guys have capital that you want to that you want to deploy, you want to put to work, or if you're in a specific market and you want to be boots on the ground, like, please reach out to us. Come invest with us. Come grow this this portfolio with us, and do something that's really cool and that no one, to my knowledge, has ever done before, which is bought 50 properties in 50 states. And when I say bought, I mean hold these properties. Like we're not flipping, we're not doing that stuff. We're actually holding properties and we're keeping them. So 50 properties in 50 states, Katie. It's been talked about. It's been done. So
sweet. We got to get to work.
Time to get to work, guys. We got to go find some deals. So happy Wednesday. Thank you guys for being on this podcast with us today. We'll be back next week. Be talking a little bit more about these 50 properties in 50 states, kind of seeing where we're at, see if we've closed on anything between now and then, and get more under contract. And we want you guys to be partners with us. So please reach out to us. You can find me on Instagram at Logan Lee Manzanares. Find Katie
Ann Manzanares
on Instagram as well. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. We're all over the place. And please reach out to us if you have any questions about anything. So Logan Manzanares.
Katie Manzanares.
We are out.
Bye.
Bye, guys.